Aloha, everyone. I am Dane DuPont from Hawaii Tracker, and tonight we have a special presentation, Another Night After Dark in the Park, this time with Jeffrey Judd, living on lava. Jeffrey has a really interesting past, right? I'm going to try and set it up for him a little bit, but it's, going to be hard to do it justice because he's been all over the volcano for decades, right? So let's just we're waiting for the live stream to come up right now. We're in collaboration again with our friends Two Pineapples. They're up there with Philip Ong, and we appreciate them for making this happen. So definitely check out Two Pineapples on YouTube if you haven't already. All right. So this was a photo. This photo is taken from by Jeffrey Judd, and this is a very famous photo of a skylight with the lava tube, all this lava running right through it, red hot, and we have this man out walking above it. Jeffrey's career is really a daring one, and here we go. After Dark in the Park tonight is Jeffrey Judd, Living on Lava. Jeff served as a geological technician for the USGS Hawaii Volcano Observatory, a Hawaii Volcanoes Park ranger, a sought-after tour guide, a criminal investigator, and a beekeeper. Really amazing. From Jeff, we'll talk story and relive some spectacular and harrowing career events and highlights. From helicopter rescues to nearly losing his life during the Mauna Ulu eruption. Really interesting stuff coming up here. So let's just take a look at some photos, though, because these really tell the story. So this here is Jeff Judd. This is a photo taken by legendary volcanologist Don Swanson at Mauna Ulu after the eruption. And you can see these vents here, just how big they are. And yeah, this is a really striking photo. Make sure everybody can hear me real quick in chat. Aloha, everyone. Looks like I don't have any complaints right now. All right. So moving on. Here's Jeff out with some lava chimneys. Some really interesting photos. And a lava boulder here. And that fresh lava out behind him. And the thing that's really interesting to me, though, is just, what I can go back and look up for myself, right? I like to go back into, old reports and things like that. I know a lot of people find it boring, but you can find some really interesting stuff. So here we have national park reports, right? From 1989 to 2022. Not a complete record, but it's pretty good. So we're just going to look for Judd, right? And we're going to see where his name comes up first. 1988. Helicopter crash. A Hughes 500D helicopter, which was under contract to the park, was being used to survey the park for illegal marijuana plants, crashed into an open terrain near Royal Gardens yesterday afternoon. All 4 people on board were taken to a hospital. The pilot sustained broken ribs and was trapped in the aircraft until he was extracted. Ranger John Macchiato suffered back injuries. Jeffrey Judd received facial lacerations and a broken nose. So went down in a helicopter crash. That's the first entry, right? We continue on, and now he's assisting with helicopter crashes, right? Rescues, and they're search and rescue. They're taking on some really dangerous terrain. This one, I believe, where was this one? Mauna Ulu Valley. Yeah, that's some really steep 2,000-foot cliffs in there. Hanging from vegetation and rocks off the cliff face. Yeah, just dangerous stuff. So this is that guy that did this stuff for decades, right? We're just going to continue on here. 1990. Jeff Judd and Paul Duclos participated in a full-time Operation Wipeout. So they're busting grow operations that are on national park property in a lot of these. But this is, I believe, the helicopter crash. So Ranger Judd, who had flown with switched helicopters at the last minute, and then assisted with the rescue of that helicopter that did go down. So he almost went down in 2 helicopters. really interesting stuff. And this is the crazy one. This one I'm sure is going to be mentioned tonight. This one was it was filming a movie, I believe, and it went down inside Pu'u, and it crashed inside the crater and went down 150 feet inside of it and landed on a ledge. And Jeff was part of the rescue team of rangers, and these guys really put in some dedicated work to be able to save these people that were in this accident down on this cliff face, and they were able to do so after multiple days of effort. So we're going to talk, I'm sure this is going to be talked about more. This is the third time a crash in the park this year. This was 1992. So let's check in, just make sure how we're looking. Just trying to make sure we're not late on anything. All right, they're still prepping. Very good. All right. So continuing on. I mean, these are just, the real reports. This one, he's doing stakeouts, right, and busting car thieves. So 3 felony thefts, and they led to convictions and sentencing. Here we have him breaking up a burglary ring, right, 1993, that were robbing the Kilauea military camp. So then they had one of them was carrying a .38 replica weapon, .38 caliber. More helicopter crashes. I mean, and here's the thing: is one of the things I haven't mentioned is this is the guy that actually fell into the lava stream, lava channel, and not only lived to tell about it, but was able to walk out of there and get himself, the assistance needed. It wasn't just immediately, oh, you got out of the lava, you're fine now. No, it was a big effort to get out of there. So let's see again how we're doing. This is again 2 pineapples. We're just going to make sure we're not going yet. I will continue to take you through a few things until that gets fully going. We won't miss any of it, I promise. Cameraman, this is the rescue from Pu'u, so the cameraman that was trapped in there. We come down a little bit. Yeah, another helicopter pilot, I'm going to butcher the name, Don Chier and Ranger Paul Duclaise made a split-second decision in midair to attempt a rescue, which meant flying their helicopter down into the crater, which had never been done before. Paul jumped out, grabbed the pilot, and threw him in the helicopter, and the cloud came in again. They flew out of the crater with virtually no visibility. All right, I think we're about to begin then. All right, guys, it looks like we are getting going, so we're going to join the live feed and let it go from here.
On behalf of Hawaii Pacific Parks Association, we'd just like to thank Judd for all his contributions and sharing his wonderful life with us. Yeah.
And you got your own bag. I also want to thank Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park for sponsoring the After Dark in the Park program. So some of you guys have seen the little donation box out there. That's what helps us to be able to keep doing these programs. And it's Elizabeth Mead from Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes. So this is a little difficult. How in the world do you introduce a legend like Jeff Judd? I know, it's crazy. I started to go back and look at his history with us. Starts at 17 years old, still underage, to work for USGS for 5 years. It was phenomenal. He was with HPD, Hawaii Police Department, for 8 years. National Park Service Ranger for 38 years. So he has worked on so many different projects. He's done search and rescues, he's done drug interdictions, he's done, oh gosh, body recoveries, he's worked multiple eruptions, just a phenomenal legacy. So he earned the nickname, he's been called the Clint Eastwood of park rangers. Yeah, and that was my Clint Eastwood. No, I'm kidding. He also is in a very elite club of people. Some of you guys have know about this club. It's the club of people who have fallen into lava and survived. It's a really small club. Yeah, and Jeff is one of those, and hopefully he will tell us a little about that tonight. There is a phenomenal trail guide that talks about the Mauna Ulu eruption, 69 through 74. And we were so excited because, let me see if I can find this real quick. Jeff's in here. So he's been featured in the Mauna Ulu Trail Guide. I said, this is going to be awesome. Now you guys are going to have these available. Maybe Jeff could autograph a few and give them out to people. And he said, we're sold out already. So I have the last dozen right here. So hopefully some lucky folks, Jeff will agree to sign some pictures there. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm volcano welcome to a legend here, Jeff Judd.
This is the good old days. Is it working? No, it's working. All right. Anyhow, my name is Jeff Judd. Thank you, Dean and Jay Robinson, Ben, for finally inviting me to. I've been retired from the Park Service for 20 years now. I've been waiting all this time. Anyhow, there's so much to talk about. Different things that happen, like it's been told to you that Mauna Ulu was parked during my tenure here. So we're going to touch on a few things, but my key thing tonight was to tell you of a dream that I had when I was a little boy. And that is me. I'm going to start, we'll do the program now. In 1954, at this age of 6, my dad brought me to my first eruption in Mauna Ulu. Actually on Kilauea Caldera floor. And brought me up to my siblings, and we came to see the eruption for a couple of days, and we left back to Honolulu, where I was born and went to school. In 1955, my dad brought me back to the eruption in Pu'u that was open to the public, and back then they were just go enjoy it and have fun, just watch what you're doing. And after 55, for a few days there, we came back for the Kilauea eruption in 1959. And again, at the time, it was really busy. There were people everywhere. Cars were backed up. Some of you may remember that. Halfway to Hilo was traffic, trying to get up to the park to see the eruption. So we got up to see it, and for those of you that hike the trails and know Spatter Ridge Trail, we sat at Spatter Ridge Trail before the spatter was dumped there and watched the fountain that was 1,700 feet tall right in front of us. Wow. It was so hot that the ohia trees around us were bursting into flames. But you know, we and many others stood our ground and watched this phenomenon before us. But every time I saw an eruption, it was getting into my mind that this is where I wanted to be. And I was determined, someday I'm going to come back to this park, and I wanted to work here. So I was age 6 then. When I graduated from high school and came up here in 1966 at age 17, I packed up my backpack, packed up my motorcycle, and shipped it on Hawaiian Airlines Freight back then, which was legal. And I arrived in Hilo and drove to some friend's house in the village and stayed there. And I came up to the Volcano Observatory. And remember now, I'm 17 years old, a young guy, and I asked for a job. Howard Powers, the scientist in charge, came to the front door. And for those of you that know the old building, it was a big metal door, old style, with a wooden center, very heavy, and it always squeaked on the concrete. And he came to the door, and you know, yes, young man, can I help you? And I said, I'm Jeffrey Judd, I'm here, I will do anything, but I want to work at the volcano. I will do rubbish, I'll clean the bathrooms, I'll do anything, but I want to work here, please, please, please. We talked for a while, and he's again asked me my name, and he said, are you Charles Judd's family? And I said, yeah, Charles Judd was the chief forester here in the territory. He said, oh, I knew Charles Judd very well. So that was kind of my breaking the ice, should we say. And then Howard asked me, would I be willing to do dangerous things? And I'm sure he was playing, because the volcano was not erupting at the time, and but I said, I'll do anything. I want to work here. I'm done with school. I'm here at Volcano. And this has been my dream since 1954. And so he hired me. He couldn't pay me. He said, but I can't pay you because you're 17. But I will give you a house in the park, quarters 199, which was brand new at the time, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath USGS house for $50 a month. So they paid me with a stipend for a while until I made 18. And then they put me on their payroll. And for you GS pay scale employees, I want you to know I was the only GS1 Step 1 in the entire government. But I didn't care. I had my job. I was at the observatory, and I knew nothing. I have no PhD. I have no master's, no BA or BS or AA. What I did have at the time, what I do have now, is a high school diploma and 2 graduations from 2 police academies, the county of Hawaii and the federal one in Brunswick, Georgia. So that's another story for another time. But I knew nothing about the volcano except I wanted to be there. It was my dream come true. And here I was, an employee at USGS at the original Hawaiian Volcano Observatory building. And my PhD, working all the years there, the few years I was there, my PhD was working in the field with all the scientists, the PhDs, and those with masters, the seismology people, the deformation people, electronics, and that was how I learned. Everything I learned from them. And living in the library at the observatory, the old observatory, and reading books for hours. These old books of volcanology and seismology, early deformation. And back then there were no computers. Everything was done by hand. We had to work day and we had to work at nighttime. The water tube tilt meters were only at night to keep the heat from the sun from moving the water around. And I learned how to do that, and to change the seismographs and to read the tilt meters in the vault across the Mauna Ulu. In 1967, Halemaumau began to erupt. And Halemaumau eruption, for that 8 months, it was going 8 or 9 months, was very different than the eruption today. The entire Halemaumau back then was a lava lake that was moving around, and rivers were coming out here and there. This is what it looked like for the 7 or 8 months when it was going. And it was really busy. It was an eruption that took a lot of work, day and night, and with deformation and other work. We had no geometers back then, no laser guns, and everything was basically hands-on. After this eruption, which lasted 8 months, the eruption moved down to a live Nepal crater. In August of 1968, October 1968, Nepal crater at the end of the crater system in the Mauna Ulu began to erupt. And Don Swanson and I walked out there. No helicopters in those days, so we had to do a lot of backpacking. We went to Nepal and spent 3 days there watching this eruption. And it was really cool because the lava was fountaining at the east end of Nepal. These big rivers are flowing back west into Nepal and disappearing down into this big fissure, and just lava was just disappearing, it's gone. On the west side of Nepal crater, when Don and I were out there, was a big spatter cone that was throwing out big blobs of spatter, building a cone about 20 feet high. And you remember that old ad on TV of the cereal? You know, you do it, and went back and forth, and Don and I were talking, you climb up that cone and look down into that hole. And no, our first time now, this is new to Don too. And you know, Don, a lot of you know Don is one of the top geology guys about kilowatt explosions. But we, during that short time of bannering, you know what, let's just walk up the cone together. And we'll go take a look, and we're trying to time it between these explosions of spatter. Obviously, you'll see why later on in some other pictures. We finally timed it, and the cone burst out with a big lava spatter, and the cone moved because it's all plastic. We ran up the cone and took a quick look down into this pit, boiling lava and things, and then ran back down. So, anyhow, the eruption ended. Eruptions come, eruptions go. The eruption stopped. In February 1969, eruption began down by Alai crater. And it was a busy time. We fished across the Chain of Craters Road. Move on here. Down here, this is the beginning of the Mauna Ulu eruption. This is Alai crater. This is Pu'u when it was covered in trees and long trail. The trail's still there. You may recognize it. And the trail went out to by Alai crater. This is the early days of the eruption of Mauna Ulu. And Alai is here, Mako Pu'u's down here, and Kaninu Hamo. And to the right here out of the picture is the Alai crater. Another view of the early days of Mauna Ulu. This was, I believe, phase 2 in June of 1969. And down here, if you look real carefully, you'll see a patrol car. There was a ranger here, his name was Ted Pico. He was sent down at the beginning of the eruption to close the gate at Mako Ulu crater. Because the eruption had just started uphill from him. He closed the gate at Mako Ulu crater, not knowing that when he went down the road, the lava had crossed the road behind him. And this is the early days of radios, and things were not like today where everything's electronic and by satellite. He turns around after closing the gate, goes back up to get out of this area, and the lava has crossed the road. And I was at USGS at the time, but nobody could find Ted Pico. There were no helicopters back then. And Ted spent the entire day sitting here with his patrol car, of course not knowing if any lava rivers would come down here, which had caused him to make some quick decisions to try to bail or whatever happened. Late in the afternoon, the Park Service finally got a hold of a helicopter at Kaneohe Marine Corps Air Station, which came up. And here's Ted Pico sitting on the hood of his car, faithfully waiting, and he got flown out. The car is still there. The car is now buried by about 400 feet of rock. So someday, one of your great-great-great-grandchildren, who's a geologist, may come out here one day and find some anomaly in the gravity meters or magnetometers or something out there. It'll be Ted's car. If you look right here, this line right here is a line of spatter cones that are being buried by the eruption of Mauna Ulu. That's the spatter cones of August, I believe, 1968. So this area is a hot spot, and I'm telling you things I was taught and things I read. This area is the dogleg where the Kilauea's East Rift turns, coming down from Kilauea, and makes a sharp left turn and heads straight for Kapoho. And it's my understanding, from what I've learned from the knowledgeable ones, who passed on the Mana'o to me, is this is an area of a hotspot, a lot of earthquakes, and it's hard for the magma to turn that corner, and hence there have been frequent eruptions down here. So when this eruption began at Mauna Ulu, let's see here. This is Aloi, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. This is Aloi crater. We have Aloi and Alai. Aloi was up the road a little bit, which is now gone. You can still see the depression in the lava from Mauna Ulu, but the crater is gone. Okay, this is the eruption beginning in February of 1969, which began in the forest about 2 kilometers downrift from where we were. And we went down Trainer Craters Road. We're just up the road from Aloi crater. And we could see the fountaining out here in the forest. And pretty soon, this crack opened up across the road on Trainer Craters. And I have to tell you, as a young kid, and even for the geology people, to see something like this starting at your feet, not explosive, I'm sure it was dangerous, but you know, we're just guys out in the field doing our thing. But to watch this fissure open up across the road and start out here with steam and gas coming up, and then we took a quick look down the crack, and you can see the top of the magma column coming up. So, and here's a piece of the asphalt, and I show this picture a lot to schools when I give talks. Imagine the power it takes to drive that lava up a mile and a half below us, and then lifting up the asphalt, and this was the start of the eruption in February. We were not there for the Mauna Ulu start. It happened about 4 in the morning, but when the alarms went off in the housing area, we went to HBO to go to work. The sky is humongous, blood red, fountaining, and the seismographs are going crazy, and the eruption was on. Of course, at the time, and I worked a lot with Don mostly at the observatory, nobody knew the eruption would last 5 years. Usually they go 2 or 3 weeks, and then usually the Pu'u and Kilauea rebuilds inflation, and it comes again. But this is February, and when the eruption, I remember when the eruption was over, and going out in the field and doing tilting work and measurements across the crack system, it was evident that Kilauea was even more inflated after the eruption ended than when it was when it started. And Kilauea was really uneasy. There were a lot of earthquakes down in this area because it's where that dogleg is, and things that I've been taught, and in my opinion, it was really uneasy. And then the eruption began again on May 24th, 1969, about 4 in the morning. But it probably crossed the road similar to this. Well, we missed it. We didn't get down there in time. And the eruption was on. Okay. Jumping way ahead during the Mauna Ulu eruption. This is the night in October or September of phase 9 of the Mauna Ulu eruption. During the first 7 months of activity, Mauna Ulu erupted with fountaining and big lava output 9 times. And after phase 12, which we'll get to shortly, after phase 12, on December 30, 1969, Mauna Ulu never fountained again to this magnitude. The volcano changed, or the magma coming in changed, and it never had the chutzpah to fountain in big fountains and put out this kind of lava. This is over twice the size of Niagara Falls. And Don and I, when it went off that night, we had to run for our lives. Now the Park Service know the truth. We had to cross the Mauna Ulu shield through the lava channels to get to Olai crater because we wanted to see what was going on. And we knew from previous phases that Mauna Ulu was doing this to Olai, and we wanted to see it. So we had to hustle at night, hoping our flashlights wouldn't break, get across the lava channels, and looking back up the channel, you can see the rivers coming of this lava. But we got to Olai crater, and this was our view. It was unprecedented.
Wow.
You know, it was noisy and very hot, and the winds coming out of the crater were hurricane force. It was incredible to be at the edge and to stand back 10 feet and there be no wind, but to go out to the edge with the thermals coming up was just wild. But this went all night long, and this area here, Olai crater was 2 levels. This level here was called the mezzanine, and the mezzanine erupted prior to this in August of 1968. And then it did not erupt again, and is now buried by the eruption of Mauna Ulu. But the cascades began, the fountains are out here, the cascades came down, and then to the lower floor, and the lake began to rise. Another view. You can see how huge, but you have to understand too, it gives you an idea of the volume of lava being pushed out of the ground by this fountain. It was just enormous. And this went all night long. And just, you know, fill up the crater very loud. We could hear the roar of the fountain to our left, and then the roar of the cascades as it went down these levels into the lowest level of off the mezzanine down to the floor. It was pretty cool, especially for a kid, you know? I mean, I'd come from Honolulu knowing nothing, and this was my show. So it was a real treat. And also at the time, I was not working for the Park Service. Like Dean said earlier, I was working for the USGS, the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. That began my entrance into the Department of Interior. But for now, I was working at the observatory and soaking up all this stuff. And there was a lot to soak up, as you can see. Okay. During the first early phases of Mauna Ulu, there were two vents, called the west vent and the east vent. I'm in the east vent now, and this here we call the Kilauea Alps. And it separated the two vents, west and east, and they would fountain together or independently. And when the eruptions, this is called interphase. In between the big fountaining periods, the lava in the column would rise and fall, and we would be in the vent watching the lava come up and then degas, come up and degas, and then one day it would come up and not degas, and the fountaining would get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the game was on for the next phase, which lasted all day or for a few hours. But in between the big fountaining, we would have this type of activity or something a little bit different. So the pressure wasn't there yet to restart the volcano for the next phase. The pressure was there and building to cause this interface. And eventually the Kilauea Alps disappeared and the fountaining coalesced into one big vent. And I can't remember if it fell in or whatever, but for a while there were two vents going. It was pretty busy. Don and I did some amazing things. You know, Don was, he would do things in Mauna Ulu that we'd hike down deep into the throat, looking around during the interphase before the lava came up to see what's going on. We'd be down 200 or 300 feet down this thing, looking down deep into the volcano, and then, but that was then. I mean, it was more of a story. But. Okay, this is I believe this is phase 11. Again, pouring into Alai crater. And I put this slide up, because of course the big fountain, but to show you the volume of lava coming out was stupendous. And I'm not a geologist, but to see all this stuff and to ask questions and to, why, and what's going on, so I could have some knowledge to pass on with these huge cascades of this lava. Lava is really thick, it's like honey. And my honeybees at home work hard for me now, but I use that as an analogy that lava is really thick, but there's so much coming out. It's just pouring like water over these cliffs. Again, it's very hot. It does a lot of stuff. Okay, and changing gears here, this is the start of phase 12 on December 30, 1969, early in the morning before sunrise. And I'm at Aloi crater this time. Aloi crater is beyond me, and it's difficult to get to, but we had stopped at Aloi crater because the roads were blocked even thicker, and it was hot and hard to get to. But this is the early morning of the phase 12, which was the last time that Mauna Ulu erupted with big fountains. And you'll see it in a minute. And it began small, so we figured, it's just another small phase, and it will be nothing. As the day went on, and again, I'm at Aloi crater, and take note of this cone here for scale. To my left here, out of the picture, and you'll see it in a minute, is Pu'u. And if anybody was here in the late 1960s, you'll remember Pu'u was showered with molten lava. And there's a photograph coming up shortly that will show you what happened. But the fountain wasn't at its full height yet, 1,900 feet. Here it's only 300 or 400 feet, 500 feet. But the fountain began to bifurcate, which is splitting. And one of the fountains was going towards Pu'u. We didn't pay much attention to it. We're down here at the Aloi parking lot watching this thing unfold. But the fountain here, and I'm sorry I don't have a picture of it, began to go further and further and further toward Pu'u. On Pu'u was Wendell Duffield and some other scientists and some other people, I don't remember who it was, were on top of Pu'u. And the fountain went all the way across suddenly and buried Pu'u in smoke and fire. We had no idea if Wendell Duffield and the gang were okay or burned up or buried in lava, because it came so fast. There was very little time to react. So it was a big deal, and they finally called up on these old radios. We had long antennas. Remember those days that these these aluminum antennas that would always break. And then the fountains changed. Okay, this is Pu'u after the eruption, that phase. It's all grown over with trees and bushes now, and Uluhe and A'ali and everything else. But this is what happened to Pu'u. And this is why, for a while, we thought Wendell Duffield, who was right here, and George Kojima, and I don't remember this guy's name, we weren't sure if they had survived, or were they buried alive up there. But they weren't, obviously they're here. This vehicle, some of you may know it, what it's called a coot. This was our all-terrain vehicle. This was our chariot to get around the volcano. This coot is total four-wheel drive. It would go anywhere with a little one-cylinder engine. We even took it down the Kalapana Trail, doing field work. The Kalapana Trail, which went down from Mauna Ulu all the way to Kalapana, had not been re-leveled, looking for deformation, I think since the 1930s. So I'll tell you, to take this thing down across the lava flows and down this trail that had not been cut since the 1930s. And when we got into the Howe Forest, that was a challenge. But the coup was amazing. It took us everywhere. This was our chariot. For field work, for leveling, for geometering, for water tilting at night sometimes. We would use the coup to move things around. But for those of you that know Pu'u, this was the damage that caused the concern that Wendell and the rest of them were dead. But they weren't. They ran for their lives. If you've been to the top of Pu'u, they ran for their lives around clockwise to get away from the fountain that was coming their way. And where they were was buried, and they had spatter coming on them in their hard hats during the thing. That's how close it got. So, but again, it worked. So, but if you go out there now, you won't recognize it. This has all been grown over by trees. It's all gone. Again, that's me on Pu'u to show you so much lava fountained over 1,000 feet across that valley kind of thing to Pu'u. There was so much molten lava being dumped. It was even flowing down the hill as molten scatter that was flowing away. That much of it came out and rocketed across that valley there. It was pretty big. Okay, back to Aloy Crater. During one of the phases, and I can't remember which one it was, there was a swarm of earthquakes at Aloy Crater. And a lot of cracks opened up, and a lot of lava was coming out. These two lava flows here were gushing out of Aloy Crater, like out of lava tubes that had formed during the earthquakes down there. And just gushing and gushing and gushing, filling up Aloy Crater. At the same time up here, where the cone is, Mauna Ulu was erupting. So because it had been going for a few days, I think one of the geochemists had contacted the mainland, and they wanted to do an experiment. And they brought down some rare metals. I think it was chromelymel and gold and some other high heat metals, which we threw into the crater up at Mauna Ulu summit, into the lava lake. At the same time, within an hour, they began to sample down here the lava coming out of the lava tube to see if the two vents were talking to each other. And as I recall, nothing showed up here in the lava here that came from Mauna Ulu summit. There was no gold, shucks, and no chromelymel, and I don't know what else metals they used that would take the heat. But I know today it would be frowned upon, but I will tell you some things that we did. The lake of Mauna Ulu was enormous, and the lake was always circulating, and we wanted to see, not we, but I was the go-get kid, if the lake was circulating over and over again, or a new lava kept coming in. So we did throw in a little bit of road tar to see if the smoke would disappear and come back and maybe disappear again, to see if the lake was circulating. And we never saw that. So lava was obviously always coming into the volcano. New lava, and then coming down here, I think, and coming out. And later on this day or the next morning, this whole area disappeared. All the way crater was gone. So it was a big change. Okay, this is, the Dean, you said to push the button again?
Yes,
The down or right?
go right.
Okay. As we say in Hawaii, chance them, because I gotta see if this video works. There we go, okay. Look at the cone, okay? This is phase 12. Watch the crust coming off like bats due to the updrafts. And I must tell you, this was the first time, and we were, you know, besides us being there at USGS, a lot of the rangers were there and the superintendent. We finally convinced the Park Service, you know what? This is a benign area to watch. Open this area to the public. And guess what the park did? Yeah. They agreed. So during this day, the Park Service opened up a Lloyd Crater parking lot and let the visitors down to see this fountain. Look at the size of this thing now. Double fountains at 1,900 feet. Okay? And that's the lava gushing in. I have another picture of the big fountains. Hang on a second. But it was a great time. You can see lava's coming across the road and bearing it. And here the close-up of the big rivers coming out of the lava tubes. There were 2 tubes. Would they connect it? Probably, but you know, we'll never know. Time to leave.
Yeah.
And this is now erupting Illinois. But you can see there's so much going on. It was a busy, busy time. There was so much to do. And again, this is the 60s. We didn't have the equipment like they have today. Everything was hands-on. Okay. Oops, we went too far, I think. This is phase 10. This is October of 1969. I went into Mauna Ulu. I would go in by myself just to go have fun on a weekend or a day off, you know, day off. I'd be sent by Don to go in here and get a sample. Because what they're looking at for the sample, if the chemistry stays the same, or the chemistry would change, which means maybe the lava is coming from different areas of the magma chambers. So one day I went in by myself, walked around the corner, and I walked upon this. This is phase 10. There were 2 more phases to come. This is about 25 meters high and about 25 meters wide, approximately. I've forgotten. And all in front of me is the huge river moving away quietly. And this was almost with no sound. Lava has a sticky sound to it. You can hear the sticky sound of the crust and the magma, whatever, moving. But it was very quiet. And this lasted for a while, and then it stopped. And then we waited for phase 11. This is nighttime. This is my Friday. Runny Friday. But again, this was just typical Mauna Ulu. You know, Don and I would go to work at night sometimes at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We'd drive down to the end of the road and hike in and go up Mauna Ulu. There would be 30 or 40 people up there, just watching the eruption, and, you know, having their snack, and then they'd leave and then go home. And it was, you know, it was a different time, a good fun time. You know, we always caution them to be careful and stuff, never turn your back on the volcano, and always make sure you have an access route to get out if something happens. But it seemed to work well. And people who went in there, who know how to get in there, it worked, and they had a good time and could see some things. Okay, this one, how people ask, how close do you get to lava? You know, I'm sure the word's out that like Dean mentioned, in 1970, December 30th, I was at Mauna Ulu Summit working, and this is not the video of it. And I went to sample the lava, and I had taken in with me three geology teachers from the mainland, from some college, who came to Hawaii and to meet Don and other scientists. And I was asked to take them into the vent to show them how we sampled molten lava. Well, I gave them a show they'll never forget. So, not this sequence, but this is a sequence, and I show this to kids at school. How close can you get? Because it's really hot. You know, you get used to it, and I think Frank has seen it. You know, the hair in your arm curls up. It's that hot. But you always got to watch what you're doing. You got to watch your surroundings, and always make sure you have a way out. Because it can get really difficult if you don't. So, this video here, taken by Don of me walking, but it's really quite safe. You know, you get used to it. We got good at it, should we say? And watch this. Where do you think the lava went? You know, the lava was coming up at one vent and going back down into another crack and disappearing. But this is called drain back. This is between the big fountain periods. Lava would come up, lava would drain back down. But you can see how thick it is. It's just like, you know, it's like taffy or honey. And it just goes back down into the cracks and does what it does down there. You know, either get remelted and reused or solidified. Okay, I kind of jumped around with the slides. Again, remember this cone here. This is the morning start of phase 12, the last time Mauna Ulu erupted on a large scale. And after phase 12, then began the dome building 40 years of Mauna Ulu being built in a dome-shaped miniature shield volcano by the overflows. Here, during these eruptions, lava would flow away or flow into the craters, and it wasn't building much of a shield. Okay, same cone, later in the day. Double fountains at 1,900 feet. It was unprecedented. You know, Kilauea can do the same thing, but to sit here with the park visitors, this was open to the park visitors. They could come down where we were and watch this show unfold. And it was awesome. The ground is shaking. We're over a half mile away, or 3/4 of a mile away. The ground is shaking just from the power of the fountain coming out of the crust, out of the cracks, or the fissures. And the lava was flowing mostly away toward the Allied crater side and down toward the ocean. But two fountains, which is really, really cool to see the power that it takes to take that magma, that lava, all the way up so high. Again, the pumice fallout. This was a concern that you had to watch the winds. If the wind came your way, pumice would start raining down on us. So we always kept the visitors near us in case we had to bail and get out of there. But it worked fine. It was good. Okay. For those of you that have been down Chain of Craters Road, remember that shelter where the pizza hut, we call it, used to be, that platform. This is where the platform is. This is where these cascades of were coming over to the Pole Pully and running down that steep pulley to the flats. But the interior, I guess, would come out and break open, and the lava was just pouring down in these waves, very thick waves of lava to the bottom, where the lava flows would rebuild themselves and head on down the coast toward the sea. This time, too, this is also open to people coming up from Kalapana. People could drive up as far as they could, and rangers were there to help park the cars and let people walk up the Chain of Craters Road from the Makai side and come and watch this thing unfold. So two sides were busy at times, mostly down here. It was easier and safer to have people down here because they could go out the Kalapana Road and back, or Chain of Craters Road back to Kalapana. But for those of you that know it, this is where the Pizza Hut, where the shelter used to be, and that platform is now. Massive, massive, massive interiors of lava coming down the steep cliff. Cool times. Hot times, but cool fun. Okay, how do we sample? As you can see, my jacket's been melted and burned. You know, I have my fireproof resistant gloves on, and you stick a cup into the lava, and you pull out a sample of molten rock, and you throw it into water to chill it and stop the crystallization. See, I learned something as a kid in geology, and it stops the crystallization when it's sent to the lab for thin sections to see the chemistry of it. This was a very hot, gassy puka in the vent, and you can see the lava churning in there. You just stick it in and take a sample. Again, you got to watch it because you're inside the vent. You never know what's going to happen. So, this part of it is from a talk that John and I gave. This picture is also phase 12. Here's the fountain in the morning. And I'd run to the north side of Aloy crater. And it was really, really hot, as you can see. But I wanted to catch the river of Papahoe coming through the forest. And by the time I got there, the forest was gone. And this river of lava was pouring into Aloy crater to my right. But to watch it coming down around, making the bend around here, coming over through these valleys, little valleys that it was making, and run down here by yourself, it's pretty cool. And I will tell you, back in those days, remember the dynamo ladle makers? The ladle on my helmet had melted and was running down my hard hat. It was so hot, it was that hot. So I fully expected my lens and my camera to crack, but it didn't. All the things that survived it. But this was a typical Pu'u flow mirroring the forest. And what we show the kids on our field trips is what takes nature hundreds of years to rebuild a forest. And 5 minutes is gone. And the cycle starts over again. You know, we would tell the kids in 3rd grade, where I help sometimes with Laura Mauna here, if we could take a knife and cut through this volcano, we probably would see layers and layers of craters, lava flows, ancient forests, or charcoal by now, when lava came through, and more craters, more lava flows, the history of Kilauea. So we have to use imagination, because we obviously can't cut, but we know, if you think about it, Kilauea over the millenniums has gone through all these cycles, and this is one of the cycles of life. And again, right here is Pu'u to get your bearings. Okay, a single 1,900-foot fountain. And I forget the phase of this, but I wanted to show you these miniature fountains here. The fountains would not be there during interphase, but the pressure was so big of the fountain rushing through the eruptive vent that in the big cinder cone, spatter cone, new vents would open up temporarily as the magma was pushing through the cinder cone and erupting in these small fountains, which shows sometimes when we're out here working, you had to watch what you're doing, where you're at, because you never know when something like this might turn on you or break open. Okay, one of the famous photographs. This is Mauna Ulu, when the crater which we see today had formed. And again, the Park Service, I don't remember if it's under pressure or they just region said to go ahead, let's just do it. The Park Service built an overlook at Mauna Ulu summit and actually built a road all the way to the top of Mauna Ulu. They even put in a Lisalua up here. But it was busy. It would be packed with people. And people would walk from the end of the road past Pu'u and come up here and stand here and watch these eruptions of little fountain on the floor in the lava lake. And it worked well. To my knowledge, nobody's ever disappeared. So there were no unclaimed vehicles at the end of the road. I'm saying that as a light thing, but people seem to regulate themselves. We would talk to them, Don and I would talk to them, or Wendell Duffield would talk to them, just be careful out here, because you're in an active volcano. Be careful, watch your back, and always make sure you have a way out. Because anything can happen with the lava. And it worked fine. And then one day we went to work and the overlook fell in. But nobody was on it. So but that was the building of the crater of Mauna Ulu summit, which is there today. It's even bigger. The crater slowly gets bigger and bigger and bigger with all the earthquakes and the whatevers and heavy rains. Okay, I'm changing gears here. We're going from fire to ice. And I wanted to show you this. This is taken in 1967 by Richard Fisk, who worked at the observatory, who I worked with and I worked under in the 67, 68. This was the largest snowfall in modern times on Mauna Ulu. The snow was a foot deep at the end of this Mauna Ulu strip road. We never saw it, but they said the snow coming across the Saddle Road was 1 to 2 feet deep. It was one of those rare freak storms that came down from the north, and it did that. And I wanted to show you Mauna Kea. Again, from Kanakukoi Crater, to get your bearings. That's how thick and how big the snow was. It was quite a deal. At the same time, the golf course was frozen. And, you know, the ice was all white golf course. So of course we had boogie boards and go sledding. My sons are in here, and we in the 80s and early 90s, we had a freeze at Volcano. And up at the golf course it was 28 degrees. And the golf course again was pure white ice. So the two boys got to stay home that day. And we went sledding on the golf course. Where are you going to have bragging rights to go sledding in ice in Hawaii in the wintertime? On a golf course at 4,000 feet. So it was quite an event. And I think that's the end of it. Let's see. Yep. So Dean, just do.
Thank you so much. George is going to bring up the house lights, and we have a time for some Q&A. So if you guys wanted to hear the story of falling in lava.
There's a lot of good stuff. We can talk about that. Because, you know, also, I mean, really fast. We had a helicopter crash in Pu'u from Paramount Pictures in the 80s, which is another long story. It was a 3-day rescue to rescue these people, which was successful. But maybe that's a long story. I think you're more interested in my lava bird because I'm supposed to be the first person in the world to fall in molten lava and live to tell about it. So, Dr. Mitchell, in fact, let's back up. I was at Mauna Ulu Summit with those 3 individuals I talked about who were from the mainland who wanted to see how to sample molten lava. And I had done it 1,000,000 times to sample molten lava and dressed just like in blue jeans and t-shirt. We had no Nomex suits back then, no silver suits. You were dressed just in t-shirt, blue jeans, your boots, and your geology kit. Sometimes you're hard at, most times not. So we went up to Mauna Ulu. This is before the crater formed, and there were many rivers coming out of Mauna Ulu summit, like big artesian wells, just gushing out and flowing down the mountain. And I done it 1,000,001 times, and now I'm here for the 1,000,002nd time, and explain to them how we do it. It's pretty safe, but you have to look at the river as it comes out of the ground and look at the crust. If the crust is moving, that means that the crust is hardening, but it's still plastic. Don't step. So they saw that, and they were backed up about 30 feet. You know, they're going, I said, you know what? You take the hammer, just scoop it up. Nope. You know, you do it. So this one time, I had my geology hammer, which you saw in the beginning of the first photograph, my trusty hammer, which is now buried in Mauna Ulu somewhere. I walked up to the river. The big river was about 15 feet wide, coming out of the ground, gushing out, going down the mountain. And there was part of it had a crust. I looked at the riverbank. The river of lava, it's just like a river of water, liquid to liquid. It has overhangs, it has corners, it has, you know, whatever. Sometimes mud on top of the rivers and stuff. The lava wasn't moving, the black crust wasn't moving, so I assumed. And you find it there, never assume anything. I walked up to this river, and I took my last step forward with my right leg to bend down to sample the lava like I've done 1,000,001 times, and I broke through the crust. It's not hard, it's plastic rock. And instantly, true story now, instantly I'm up to my knee, my right leg especially, in molten rock. Right? And I had broken the crust, so now I'm traveling downriver in the lava. Everything out of the lava, all my jeans, my t-shirt, everything was on fire. Some of you have played with lava, you stick a branch in, it was gas coming out, and it's good fun to do. Yeah, I'm in the molten lava, going down the river. The 3 guys haven't moved. No, but what are they going to do? They have never seen an eruption before. They have never seen lava sampling before. They've never seen this fool. Not really. Sampling lava. Even though they said it afterwards, it dawned on them that I'm in trouble. There's no way they're going to come out yet. So I'm going down the river now about 10 feet, and I'm on fire, totally, like a big torch. I managed to throw my hammer down, which is probably my saving grace. I threw my hammer down, my geology hammer, and I spun around in the molten lava. And now my left leg is starting to go down in the molten lava. But for now, it's dragging. My right leg is up to my knee in the molten rock. And now I'm lying on my belly in this stuff, going down the river. And I had flicked off my leather gloves for whatever reason. And I was going down the river trying to find something to hold on to. And this bright orange crap came up, because right here is a big spatter cone, throwing out spatter. My hands went into this big orange crap, and everything got torched. Now, it sounds gross, and it is what it is. But my hands are in this bright crap. Flames are roaring out from this crap now. My hands burning. But I was able to pull myself out, and I sat there next to the river. And I remember I'm so hot. Okay? Obviously, it sounds dumb, but in my mind I was going so hot, and I'm beating up the fire. What remained of my t-shirt and my jeans. I'm not quite butt naked, but I'm close. Everything is burning. Lesson learned back then, that we had free boots from the Vietnam War era, which was nylon. Mistake number one. The nylon boots had melted to my feet. Oh, that was a good thing. In a sense, it was a good thing. Because once I walked back to the three guys, who still hadn't moved, they were dumbfounded. What are they going to do? I walk up to them like this, my shirt's hanging down in threads, my hair is smoking, the hair I have left, and the jeans are tattered, and I have these melted boots to my feet. And I've had enough. It was a Saturday morning. I had enough things to call the visitor center. East Field was closed, because we could come and go at will down there and do things and stuff. And I've met them, taken them down there. I called the dispatch and said, "This is Jeffrey. I'm burned. What? The 10-9. The Rangers are here." So I repeated it. I am really badly burned. We're at Mauna Ulu somewhere. I'm coming out. Back then, KMC was run by the 4 branches of the military. The Army ran the base. The Army ran the base. The Air Force did the driving. The Navy medics did we had Navy medics in the ambulance. And the Air Force did the driving, and the Marines did the security. We had Marines there, really cool, in uniform. Every day they had flag lowering and raising and taps and all that, really nice. So the Park Service called KMC medics, and God bless these 19-year-old medics. We got a great big job at KMC. They got the volcano right here, and they got this call. USGS employee burned at Mauna Ulu. Bad thing was no helicopters in those days. I had to walk a mile down Mauna Ulu, which was still hot lava here, with these melted boots on my feet. So I'm glad the boots stayed on my feet. The guys wanted to carry me. Don't touch me. I'm okay. Just leave me alone. I'll get out. We get to the end of the road where the ambulance was. These 2 Navy medics wanted to hear the whole story. Young dudes down like me, young bucks. They want me to lie in the gurney. No, let me sit in the jump seat in the back. You guys sit up front. I don't want to lie down. I don't want to touch anything. But I had to explain, relive the whole thing on the way up to the visitor center, back to Hilo. Okay. And back then, Walnut Ledge, the road was open. Crater hadn't fallen in yet. So we came around that way, came past Thurston Lava 2, and we got past Walnut Ledge to make a right turn to head to Hilo. And remember now, these are just 19-year-old guys who, they tell me, get out of the ambulance. You're not going to take it to Hilo, you don't look so badly burned. It's a true story. So, and for whatever reason, I was half out of my mind already. And no pain, by the way, because the nerves had burned off my leg. I had no pain in my hands. Yeah. So I said, okay, let's get out of the ambulance then. I get out of the ambulance, and they go left back to KMC. And just then, Jim Martin, who later became my mentor in the Park Service and law enforcement, and one of my best friends, is coming from KMC side, heading to Hilo to see me. And he sees me standing in the middle of the intersection. What are you doing here? So they kicked me out of the ambulance. Jim, we got all flustered. We get in the car, we went down to Hilo, sirens and lights, all that stuff. We got to Hilo Hospital. Dr. Mitchell was there, James Mitchell, on the ER shift that weekend. By the way, sadly, he's the person that died at Apollo Bay in the tsunami we had in 1975. We had an earthquake off the, on a, I think it was 7.5, about something like 7.5, an instant tsunami. And the tsunami was on the coastline at 5 o'clock in the morning or so. And as the coastline was sinking and enveloping the ocean due to the collapse of the coastline, the tsunami came in and picked up all these Boy Scouts with their horses at night and pushed them inland into a big crack. Those of you that have been down there, you know that water crack. And the three waves came in, I think, and washed these people around. And he got stuck in a rock and drowned. He's the one that saved my leg, especially my right leg. By the way, I have my leg. So. Key factor in the lava, which was a study for him and some other doctors that came up, and for a couple of people at HBO. How come I didn't sooner? I'm in 2,100 degree molten lava. Why didn't I just explode or die instantly? We think, one, I wasn't breathing. Either I stopped breathing on my own, or my body told itself, don't breathe. Because had I taken a breath, like Dr. Mitchell said, had I taken a breath of air, it probably was 700 or 800 degrees. It probably would have burned my lungs like this. I would have dropped in the lava and disappeared. Number two, why didn't my leg just burn off? And this was a point of contention and study, and he looked at it for a long time. My leg is in molten lava up to my knee. There was very little, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, there's very little oxygen in molten lava. My leg wasn't burning, it was cooking. No, I mean, it's facts and facts, but it was a big study. Is that time? So, I wasn't burning, my leg was cooking. I was burning, my hands were burning, because I had oxygen. My leg was not burning. Hence, they had nothing to do with skin burns, because my leg burns are very smooth. There's no wrinkled skin, fire, burning burns. They had nothing to graft onto. So they brought up this cream from Kaneohe Marine Air Station called sulfamyline, which used to coat the burn to make it irritate the skin, to make the skin. So I didn't lose my leg. But the shin bone had burned cooked halfway through. No, it's good. The shin bone had not burned, just had burned. It was getting to the point where it would not have repaired itself. It was able to do so. It took a long time, but I got my leg back. Wow. What I don't have is any hair, sweat glands, or oil pores on that burn. So if I were to come here tonight and leave my top and my shorts, swimming shorts, you would scream because I'm so white. I don't want the sun because it fried, my leg fries. In 20 minutes, my leg will be bright red burns. So when I go to Pu'u Ulu to see the turtles, I either wear jeans or we go early in the morning, high noon. Any questions? I talked to Ron. My dream came true. I walked into HBO at 17 and asked for a job, and I did the those things. Like Dr. Powers offered to me. He was a great guy. He was a really nice gentleman. But my dream came true, and for you students in here that have a dream, for me it worked. I came out of high school in Oahu at 17. I came up here by myself. I knocked on the door, and they put me in the girl when I'm 18. It was the only GS1 step one in the country. I didn't care. I got a paycheck. I had my dream. I learned from these guys, all these scientists. It was pretty cool. dad came over to the Park Service. And that's a whole other talk. And law enforcement. Marijuana operations here in the park. Green Harvest. By the way, since we're on talking about real fast, the third thing that I experienced, my wife and I and another ranger were flying in the park on a drug enforcement mission. Somebody shot us out of the sky. There's a 1 in a million chances to hit us, and somebody out in Paulea took a rifle shot at us and hit us. We didn't know it. But the helicopter lurched. There was a screech and a bang. So we had the doors off. I had an M16. Other rangers had their M16s. We turned over upside down in the flight. That's the last thing I remember. And we woke up on the ground on a crash. They said it was not survivable. We walked away from it. But it was, we were kind of busted up. But, it was hidden from the public for the most part because we didn't want to give not me, but the chief ranger at the time, we didn't want to give the shooters any, hey, we can bring these birds down. So it was hidden from the people. Wow. But, things happen.
All right, Jeff, we are going to wrap it up there. If you guys have questions for Jeff, please stay. Is it okay, Jeff, if you stay here for a little while? Okay, excellent. Yeah, and I do have some of Jeff's Mauna Ulu trail guides here. If you guys want souvenirs and get them to autograph them, that's awesome. Next month, we got 2 After Dark in the Park programs for you. And then December 10th, the first time in years, we're going to once again have a holiday concert right here. Thank you so much. Fabulous.
Right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that presentation. That was Jeff Judd, Volcanic, around Wisconsin. That's just the tip of the iceberg. It's really started. I want part 2 and make sure you talk just about the helicopter risk.
Yeah, so much.
So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we will be back Thursday, 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That is our standard time for our updates on Kilauea, Mauna Ulu. The Kilauea, Mauna Ulu update Thursday, 5 p.m. That will be the next time we are live. I was going to see if Philip and Two Pineapples were going to jump on camera real quick, but we'll just hang out for a minute, see if they have anything to say to conclude this. I know they're going to be there for a while talking to Jeff. And there they are. Hey, guys. All right. Well, we thank everybody for joining us tonight, and we will be back on Thursday. There's George there. All right, guys. Have a good one. Until next time, thanks to Pineapples. Check them out on YouTube. Their YouTube is just Two Pineapples. You'll be able to find it. They do all kinds of live streams, stuff like that. And until next time, aloha, everyone.